This is the beginning of recap number 3. We got James Washington in the house representing VSU.
Hello.
How are you doing, James?
Doing well, man. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate you thinking of me.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so we started doing the first one, just me, Shane, and Eric, 2 weeks ago, and then we did that one. We were like, hey, we want to get Ted on, so he came on and did his appearance last week, and then this week, especially with the Kobe tribute at the beginning of episode 5, I was like, who better than Mr. Washington here? So
yeah, it always makes me feel good when people think about me, in the Laker context.
So what were your thoughts on this episode?
Well, I mean, I think probably my favorite part of 5 obviously came pretty early on. Like I think the 98 All-Star game was probably the first one that I can remember watching that really stuck with me. And I'll tell everybody, ironically, even though, I've been a Laker fan since probably about like 96-ish, but I never really paid that much attention to Kobe early on, to be honest with you. I mainly got on because of Van Exel and Eddie Jones. I was huge fans of theirs.
Eddie Jones.
I
got the Eddie Jones staff right now.
Yeah. but it was that All-Star game that really it was that All-Star game that really did it for me. I was like, I heard the name, but it really stuck, and I was like, yo, this guy is like the only person out here that's not treating this like an All-Star game. Mm-hmm. And it clicked. But I think my favorite thing from his segment was when he brought up the whole people asking him about, him and Jordan, who's better, this and that. And he made the remark, he said, without Jordan, you don't get 5 rings from me. That to me was one of the ultimate compliments that he could have given to MJ. Like that was so dope.
Yeah. I wrote that down. That was part of like, the comments that happened there, where he was just like, talking about like the whole like don't get not wanting to compare me to Jordan is just because everything everything that came from me was from Jordan,
right?
And so yeah, I definitely really like that comment. Eric, you got something?
Yeah, no, I was gonna say I agree, man. I mean, you can even see it in the game, right? Like even some of Kobe's moves, right? Some of those pivots and those face-ups, like it's like it looks just like Mike's old game, you know what I mean? Like I think you definitely, what do they say, like imitation's like the greatest compliment, or something like that.
There's form of flattery.
Right, exactly.
No, I love some of the things I loved about that one was Larry Bird, now MJ's coach, and like when he walks in and he says, well, if we're here we might as well win.
That was the best quote to me.
Yeah.
That was my favorite. Yeah. I'm stealing that if I ever coach him. I'm stealing that.
Right.
It was them like sitting around talking about Kobe. They were just like, that guy's not treating this like this guy isn't treating it lightly. And then like afterwards, kind of them going like, like that dude, like he goes hard.
Mm-hmm.
So like it was cool that they were talking about him like already at that point.
Yeah, MJ saying, look, man, I'm gonna make him work on both ends.
right, yeah.
He made the comment that was like the only way he's getting the ball is by getting the rebound.
Yeah. Yep.
The thing that stuck out to me about it,
that was,
man.
Go ahead. No, go ahead.
No, like the thing that kind of was cool about it to me was the fact that it was one of Jordan's last All-Star games, and it was like Kobe's first All-Star game.
Yeah.
So it's like and ironically, Jordan was the MVP in Kobe's first All-Star game, and now the trophy is named after Kobe. So
I love how Stern was saying
it all comes circle in that way is beautiful.
I love Stern's remark talking about the only way I'm giving him this trophy is if he promises to come back.
Yeah, that was kind of the passing of the torch for sure right there.
Everyone's like, no, please don't go. I don't know what to do.
Another thing I noticed, what I used to like more is, the All-Star, how they wore their own team jerseys during the All-Star game?
Yeah.
I like that so much more than like the same jerseys like the issue jerseys for the All-Star game.
It was funny. I had actually talked with Shane about this a while back, I think it'd be awesome to see almost like a hybrid of the two. Like what you do is for each team, you still dedicate like red and blue, except you make that team's jersey in those colors.
Oh yeah, that would be.
So
cool.
They're still wearing their own stuff, but it's solid red or solid blue.
Yeah.
All I'm gonna say is that those would be like the ugliest Celtic.
Well, I mean,
but anyway, so what did you make of like Jordan's part in all of this? Kind of like this seemed to really go a lot. It didn't just seem like this really got a lot more into kind of the darker elements and like kind of like feeding more into just like his
the gambling,
competitive and the gambling and all that. So like, what did you make of how this episode kind of like laid the foundation or went into all of that?
It was really interesting. I feel like a lot of those things we had definitely skated the surface on a lot of that stuff, but seeing so much detail and just seeing how driven he was really just brought it into a new light. Like I think the funniest things that I would bring up from those would be first the when he's gambling with like the security guards, like the coins in the locker room. Like,
oh yeah, that was great.
I mean, it's just for you to be so into it that you want to bet over like throwing quarters. I'm like, come on, man.
Right. Shows how competitive, and even the cards, on the plane and stuff like that.
He just wanted to get like your
your money in my pocket.
I want your money in my pocket.
And
right.
I think about that today. It made me think of the Geico commercial that's like, I got $1. Except only like his ass was like, I got your $1. Like he's like ecstatic about it.
That, and then it was funny with the they showed the clip. I want to say it was still in episode 5 when they were leaving practice and MJ was like rushing Scotty like, come on man, we got a tea time, and he's like on the bus honking the horn like,
not getting no interviews in.
No, I'm like, this dude is crazy. Like,
that was great.
Yeah, dude. No, it shows. I mean, I'm happy they brought it up because for sure. And I like the way Sam Smith said it. He was like, the book basically said that Mike's not perfect, right? And that's basically the whole point. You know what I mean? I think that was good for them to start to show that a little bit. You know what I mean? Because I think that the first 5 episodes, right, you would think Mike was perfect, right? But I think it was good to start showing this side of, and hopefully the next one they'll go into, maybe his wife and some of the kids stuff. I don't know how much they're going to go into, how personal they're going to get into it.
Well,
I feel like I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was saying, I feel like this episode was, because like I watched a little bit of like the Jalen Jacoby, like they talked with the director right after, and the director Jason Aaron was basically saying like next week's is when it like this was like almost setting up kind of like everything else that's about to come out. This is like kind of like the precursor, and he said like episode like the next one, it's like 7. Is really going to like start to really like go into it, and he was asked the question, or he gave the response that he like wrote the questions. He had a time to write the questions, sent them to Michael, and Michael basically said, "Ask me whatever you want, like I'll answer it honestly." So like that's what makes me think like. You asked how personal is it going to get? Like, I feel like this could get as personal as Jason Ayer felt like it needs to be. And kind of going back to the Sam Smith, the Jordan rules, it's sort of, this is like, nowadays it's like we get kind of like both all the time, like, the highs of like a player and also kind of like, like, people poking into like everyone's background, and this was kind of like that happening, but it just wasn't. It was kind of like the first of its kind, where like a star's history who was so guarded about like his like skeleton started leaking out through, and it's almost like y'all being reporters, us having like journalism backgrounds. It's like, what Sam Smith did is kind of like it was also the story. It was breaking. It was something that nowadays we're kind of all embracing like, hey, we're not all perfect, but like for Michael Jordan to not be
This is
perfect.
the first time where I thought Michael Jordan was just like us.
Yeah.
Right.
Like that was the first time where I was like, you know what? He's human. But in case y'all are keeping score, Mike has only missed, I think, one shot in 6 episodes. So his field goal percentage is pretty nice.
You said he's only missed one shot?
Yeah, I think he's missed one shot on camera this whole time.
Oh, right. Yeah, that's cool.
It's like
Damn,
It's like Coach Carter.
Yeah.
That's funny. Yeah, no, I think that was the best episode so far, though.
Yeah.
And also the quote, Republicans buy sneakers too.
My sneakers too.
So I've heard that quote for so many years, but I didn't know if it was true or not. So for him to actually admit that was a quote out of his mouth, like I thought that was interesting too.
It's a good thing social media was
Yeah.
people talking so much stuff.
It'd be a wrap.
But I mean, so much about this, like even him not going to the White House in '91, like, which I guess, like even nowadays, like at the time, like that, and I just like right now, like obviously players are probably going to be not wanting to go to the White House, but for the time in 1991, like that was like, if social media was back then, it would have just been reported like, oh my God, like, you know,
I would have loved to have
Jordan doesn't attend White House.
Bro, I would have loved to have seen the TMZ report when Rodman shows up in Vegas. That would be the great. That, you could do a documentary on that just by itself.
You know, TMZ would have been right there too.
Oh man, they got all.
No, it was good. I feel like it starts
wrapped up in a blanket.
If athletes are supposed to be, like you said, he didn't think of himself as an activist, you know what I mean? And that's where I always separate like MJ and LeBron, you know what I mean? Like I give LeBron a lot of credit for kind of stepping up on social issues and, speaking up on things.
Yeah.
There was a different time back then too, you know what I mean?
That's what I was going to ask you.
You don't have that pressure to speak on certain things. So, I don't necessarily knock Mike for it either. I just think it's interesting how, those two.
It's good if you can pick a side because now it's like you can't really – it's like if you are going to be an activist, you have to kind of stick to that. Right. You can't really put the toothpaste back in the tube at that point. Like if you decide to come out and put yourself on the forefront, then you have to be willing to take everything that goes with that. I think LeBron understands that he's Teflon. There's not a whole lot of dirt on LeBron. He can kind of take that risk. I think Jordan, his gambling was something somebody had to poke for. But other than that, there wasn't really anything negative about Mike either.
Right. And LeBron started speaking up as his career kind of, and later on too. It wasn't like he was a second-year, third-year guy on Cleveland talking out on, you know what I mean? Get to a point in your career where you can, speak on.
And I think this is a point that anyone can, it's like you have to reach a point, and it's like, even Kobe, like, will just remain determined to be like the best basketball player he could, and it's like you can't really fault it because like Jordan was saying like my game's going to do the talking for me. It's kind of like he was putting every ounce of his like willpower, everything into like becoming that thing to like be the best. And I mean, to be the best at anything, it takes like undivided attention. And so like I don't know, like if Jordan's like coming out, like I don't know if that's a time where the general public is even wanting his like is even saying like do we need Jordan's like opinion on things?
From Michael Jordan,
and it's weird how that's flipped. And you could ask the same thing about like do we need the opinion of any athlete or activist or activists for sure, but like why do we expect our athletes to also be activists? It's like LeBron's like kind of like leaned into it in some things, in some topics. So you have Serena Williams and you have like several others. So it's kind of like it's now become something to like where taking a political stance is also seen as something to add to your brand. You know,
It's
to
funny
add.
and kind of on what you said, like, you know, status definitely plays a big part in that too, because everybody would look for something like that from a Michael Jordan, but a lot of people didn't realize in the same locker room you had somebody like Craig Hodges.
Dude, yes, bro. I thought they were gonna bring that up too.
I was hoping they would. I was really hoping they would.
I thought they were.
What's the Craig Hodges thing?
Well, Craig Hodges was really outspoken about it. He was basically LeBron back then, minus the cameras. Like, he was very outspoken on a lot of major issues, but he wasn't Jordan, so you didn't hear about a lot of that stuff.
Yeah.
Right.
And Craig would get on Mike like, "You're not saying enough.
Yeah.
Like, you're not doing what you're supposed to be doing."
Mm.
And Craig basically got damn blackballed from the league. You know what I mean? Like, before Kaepernick, like, I mean, he's one of those guys in sports history. Like, no teams called his ass after the Bulls,
Right.
let him go.
What if anything, I feel like if Michael had been an activist for things at the time, that almost could have been like seen as like a negative.
What do you mean? Oh, you're saying?
I'm saying just from the standpoint of like, I mean, obviously if like MJ like takes a stance on things, and like certainly I think in that political, like, he could have like helped that election for sure, but just kind of like in the environment sense where it's like this isn't really what we expect of athletes. It's sort of it's it's polarizing now. Like, that would have been something where it's like. And I think that kind of goes back to that whole comment about Republicans also buy shoes.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not trying to like support the statement, but it's kind of just showing where the whole like landscape was for like choosing a side like at that point.
He had to protect his money.
I think that, like what you were saying, I think that leans to like. Another part that they touched on was, him getting the shoe deal with Nike.
Mm-hmm.
Like, Jordan saying Republicans buy shoes too. Like, to me, that kind of put an athlete kind of at the forefront of going into business for themselves and being a brand. And basketball, I mean, outside of like Bird and Magic and those guys, like, nobody else had really taken that. Next level of endorsement and power.
Right.
So, like, you could close your eyes and almost see LeBron saying something like that now, because LeBron is Nike all the way now. So,
well, this is something that I wrote down because I thought about this as like, it was how do you think this compares to like, LeBron had the whole like China incident that happened last year where people felt, oh, you're this activist, and now you kind of like came out like did the whole China thing, and people started questioning whether or not like he would, all of his activism is really just to protect his brand. And I was also kind of the mindset at the time that the league was kind of like dealing with this, and like it wasn't necessarily on, like it wasn't like. LeBron wasn't necessarily the one to like come out with some bold statement at the time when the NBA and like players, because it wasn't just his money, it was like the entire NBA who had this deal with the league, and it's like, say like anything gets said at that point that severs the relationship completely, and now you're dealing with like the rest of the league isn't it's kind of like in that moment like the political activists want LeBron to say something. Like, he didn't necessarily say I don't agree with like the uprising and whatnot, but it wasn't the time necessarily for him to address that. It was like,
I think too, like a big issue between the two is that in LeBron's case it became something international.
Mm-hmm.
Like in the case of dealing with Jordan, it's like, okay, there's going to be a few, like Americans mad at him, but just like you said, the international ties and that international business, I think that's easily what made LeBron's like exponentially bigger, you know, because he has to speak on something, and like you said, for the sake of the business. I mean, if they lose that business in China, that's a hard hit. So,
Right.
I think there's a major key there with LeBron having, like you said, I mean, damned if you do, damned if you don't, really.
You know, LeBron was right on that comment. Basically, you know, you're damned if you do, you know, or not. You know, it's like you're damned if you don't. So, you know, either way, you kind of dice it up. But you know, the thing is, it's like what MJ was saying. You know, I don't want to be a role model, and Barkley has said it too. You know what I mean? But the truth is, you know, guys, you don't really have a choice. You know what I mean? You're a public figure. You know, I mean, kids look up to you. It's kind of like naive, you know, to say that. You know, even today's age, it's like you don't really have that choice or not. You know what I mean? So you got to remember that people are looking at you. You know what I mean?
Always watch. Yeah.
You gotta either hop in or be all out. Like I think with the China thing, I think LeBron took flack because everybody was like, is he really like for the cause, or he's just doing this because it's convenient?
Yeah.
Like,
right.
is he just doing this because everybody else is doing it, versus is he doing this like to kind of protect himself or whatever?
Well,
you know, that's always going to be something with LeBron, because you never really know with LeBron, because LeBron's kind of that guy where he may not do this necessarily intentionally, but there's always the look at me aspect with LeBron, because he knows he's being watched. And I feel like because he knows he's being watched, he may feel the need to doubt about something, because even with the China thing, he maybe wasn't as informed as he should have been about it. He was trying to speak up about it, which makes a lot of people think, oh, well, he must have some interest to protect.
Right. Well, like before he gets a chance to even dig in, you know, a reporter in his locker room asking him, you know, about it. So it's kind of like, it's one of those situations where he's like, I think he kind of spoke before he, you know, actually got a chance to really dig into the subject, but it's all right.
Well, I mean, and y'all know, like, I'm a LeBron fan, but that I just didn't think, what was he gonna say that was going to necessarily change the China situation for the better? And I felt like in that standpoint, it what like he had a better he had what he could have controlled. The thing he had more control over was the players that in his league he is important in kind of like how other players like get their money, and like, you know, that's like his colleagues, like the way they provide for their families. So I kind of took it as, hey, like Adam Silver is like the commissioner. He's the one dealing with this. I don't want to be the one, like, you know, saying too much that's going to like just exacerbate the issue or make this even muddier. So I'm not trying to like necessarily be the one that's going to like say anything like in the situation. So like, but so yeah, I don't know. That's just it. Like, but I do agree with, like, he always has, like, he does have the look at me like aspect as well, and so yeah. I mean, it's hard to know.
Yeah. Needless to say, I think that guy that said people would forget about Michael Jordan obviously had no fucking idea what he was talking about.
Wait, which dude?
The guy that said that people will remember Muhammad Ali, they won't remember Michael Jordan.
Oh,
like,
yeah.
Well, anyway, so we're back, and so one thing I wanted to get into was the whole like backstory for Nike, and I thought that was really cool about where it started with the it being like the Air Soles.
Yeah.
Like becoming the Air Jordans.
Let's call them Air Jordans.
Yeah. Did y'all know? Was that something like? Was that something like y'all had heard of, like, before the documentary?
Yeah.
Honestly, like I didn't. I mean, I try to pay attention to like hoop shoes and everything, but I'm not nearly like the Jordan nut like a lot of people are. So no, that was definitely news to me. I had no idea.
Yeah. Well, like Vaccaro was a big part of that. Sonny
Yeah,
Vaccaro.
Sonny, yeah.
He was a big part of that. I'm surprised he wasn't. Right now, no, I think Sonny's still alive, right? But
Is he?
I
I'll
don't know.
check
Now I'm
real
trying to
quick.
think. Maybe I heard. No, I think he's still alive.
Yeah, I think Sonny's still alive.
Yeah, he is. Okay, but I'm just surprised he wasn't mentioned on that part right there. But yeah, man, it's crazy because Nike was the track shoe, though. I mean, like Bill Bowerman. I mean, it's a great book. I mean, that was the track company, and Adidas and Converse. They were like way ahead of Nike. Yeah. Nobody was even thinking about
And
it.
it's crazy that they were talking. MJ said he was like an Adidas guy.
Mhm.
Like that was something else I wasn't really aware of either.
Well, I feel like that makes sense because he always wanted to like be the best, and I think that kind of is why at the time he wasn't looking at Nike just because he was at the time he's like I want to be repped by who's repping like athletes.
Right.
Right.
Good
Yeah,
thing he didn't
sure.
get an Adidas deal because I couldn't imagine like Jordans being Adidas. I couldn't imagine.
No, it really is hard to even think about it now.
Rocking a pair of Air Strike 14s.
Right.
Seriously.
Well, same for Kobe's, but remember the Crazy Eights? I mean,
Those Kobe Moon shoes were some of the ugliest shoes I've ever seen in my life.
They were ugly though.
They were hideous.
Some of those early Adidas joints. But yeah,
People just. I think people act like they like them. I don't think they really like them. I think they're just like Kobe wore them, and that's good enough for me.
exactly. That really
as
is
much as I love Kobe,
it's like vintage Kobe, so I like it.
as much as I love Kobe, I'm not putting that shoe on my foot.
Yeah, man, no, for sure. It's crazy because
like,
a lot of those deals.
Yeah, the reason I asked is just because I know like so many people like into buying the Jordans like come out like every year and they're so into that. So like hearing that, I was like, to me I was like I had never heard that, but is that something that's common knowledge? And so, but I thought it was just it was cool that he ended up taking the meeting because his mom wouldn't let him say no.
Boy, you gonna take this meeting?
Right, exactly. Now, that was some real parent stuff right there.
Mm-hmm.
No, you gonna hear this.
So,
no, for sure. Smart decision.
Like,
What was it? That was like you'd be
right.
crazy not to take this.
Mother's Day coming up, by the way.
Mama knows best.
Yeah, I'm telling you.
Yeah, no, you throw that much to a rookie. I mean, it was a no-brainer decision.
And then when they were talking about the expected sales early on, is that where you were going?
Right.
Not that. Like hot, like notable athletes were getting like 100,000, and then they were just like 200. It was like 250,000. They were like for an unproven rookie. They were like, and it was just yeah.
That's what changed the game though, and that's why Kobe got his deal before he even graduated high school. Man was a millionaire before he finished high school. Just like that started it all.
Getting his parents signing off on contracts for him and shit.
Right.
and just at the same time, it was he wanted to go to Converse, and Converse is like, look, we want him. We just have all of these stars in place. We can't actually be putting on. And just a flip-flopped. I mean, not to keep doing this like back and forth between the eras, but I mean that's kind of like, we're living in this current era and we're kind of comparing that. So like, but you're right, that absolutely kind of set like the new trend to endorsing in what's new than just than simply just what's proven.
And random side note, as a hoop head, that Converse commercial is one of the greatest commercials ever made.
Yeah.
I will never get tired of that commercial.
Wait, which one?
The one Magic and Bird.
Like Magic and Bird and all of minutes.
Yeah.
Never gets old. It never gets old.
When you think about how much shoes have changed, like those flimsy like Converses.
Right. It's like, could you imagine? Yeah, could imagine hooping in like some of like the old ones that were made out of like canvas, You're
Yeah.
wearing
Right, exactly.
You're
Like,
wearing a
literally
pair of
sandals,
jeans on your
like,
feet.
I don't even see how people played in the Jordan 1, honestly, because, I mean, it looks like more of a fashion shoe.
It looks really like cloggy, yeah.
No, like
right. Well,
even
that's why it
he
was funny when he was saying like my foot was covered in blood after the
Yeah.
it's like, is it the shoes? He's like, I hope not, because my foot is bleeding.
No, I've never looked at the ones like, man, I want to hoop in those. Like,
No.
Ever.
you know what I mean? I've never looked at those like
I
that.
never
like-
started.
I feel
I
like
never
you
started
need to
like. I
get
never
the-
wanted to play in any of them until maybe around like the 11 or 12.
Yeah, once you
Yeah,
got
it
into
was-
the double digits, it started to
Yeah.
look like something you could hoop in.
Mhm.
You know, I
Yeah,
always
that's
feel like the
true.
other ones up until like you get to like the 10s and into the 11, 12, 13.
They're fat. They're fashion. They're not. I'm not playing in those.
Yeah,
I want a pair
yeah.
of the 34s though. I already told you. I definitely want a pair of the 34s. Those are beasts.
I know. Documentary made me want to get a new pair. I haven't bought Jordans in so damn
know,
long.
right?
It's been a minute. I think the last pair I had were like the 21s, but it's been a minute.
I had a pair of the 20s. I thought those were kind of sick with the strap and all that stuff. Like I thought
Yeah.
those were mad comfortable, and I feel Mike on the whole, like his feet were bleeding because I had those 20s and like my foot was growing. Like those were like a 10 and a half, and I was coming up on the 12 pretty fast.
No, the last ones I owned, I think, were the 17s, and I told you about them, man.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know, it was something about them, but like the tongue and the top of the shoe used to just like dig in my ankle so bad. Like I could only hoop in them for a little while, and after that, I was like, let me go ahead and put these in the closet because
Right.
they hurt, man.
I had the Kyrie's and for a while those are like the most comfortable for a while, but then like they started breaking down, and so now like I can't even wear this because like it's that same way. Like now when I wear this, it's like it makes my foot hurt, kind of like the plastic part like in the like is like digging into like my toes a lot. And now like I have like these shoes from I just got these from like Rack Room Shoes. They were like on. I mean, they're just like a generic shoe. It's like honestly one of the most like comfortable basketball shoes I've ever had. They just fit so comfortably.
It's straight off the rack.
Yeah.
For real. It's
My
funny.
go-to is still my Dames.
Like it's
Dames
funny
are
when you
my-
come up. Yeah. Like, I
Yo,
have
I
extensive feet now.
I slick want to try the Currys, yo. They ugly,
Dude.
but
I
they look like they feel good though.
Yeah, so they were selling those at Dick's a while ago, like on sale, and like I was looking at trying to get them. That like I ended up not, just because I was like, I don't really need basketball shoes at this point. But I put one on, and like it was great.
Yeah.
Like I felt
Yeah.
yeah.
Well, apparently Curry his meeting got all messed up with Nike. Like
Yeah.
they like
mispronounced
spelled
his
wrong
name.
or
Like
something
no, when they went to
presentation.
talk to him, they welcomed him in and called him Steven.
Right.
And he was like, nah, it's a wrap. Like
Like, all right, I'm going to Under Armour.
And I thought about that when like Michael
Yeah.
not wanting to like go with Nike, they end up getting him, but then Nike ends up screwing the deal with Curry, and he goes with Under Armour. So it's like, it's almost
like what's the next great blunder?
yeah.
Under Armour though, they're like struggling though. I mean, like Curry's by far their biggest athlete for sure. I mean, they got Bryce Harper, but they don't really got that momentum like the other brands.
I feel like all of Under Armour shoes look the same.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
You know, and I feel like their designs aren't that fresh. Like
All
I think
of
that's what hurts them.
all of Under Armour shoes look like they were created from the generic shoe in 2K.
They're like that default shoe, right? Like if you don't change it to nothing, that's the one.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
That's funny as hell, bro.
Well, I guess I don't think anyone's Nike like is like set like the standard for performance. I think that Under Armour is you see like the bright colors, and you see just kind of like it's for kind of like the multi-sport athletes, the cross trainers, and so it's almost like feeding expression more than it's feeding like performance. And so it's kind of like if you're trying to compete with Nike in terms of like performance, like I don't think you're gonna win like going that route. And like yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you're definitely trying to be different if you go with them. The market's kind of flooded too. Like Puma's coming back; they've signed some guys.
Right.
They're trying to get there, and then Dwayne Wade, like Chinese company,
Leaning or Leap.
Yeah, they got some guys now too. So
I thought Wade was Jordan Brand for a while.
he was.
If he
Then
not,
He was, but then he ended up with that the other company.
They gave him that like lifetime deal.
Yeah.
Anybody would have took that for sure.
Right.
I think Devin Booker's with them. They got some guys now. Like,
yeah.
So
what did y'all think about the Tony Kukoc part, or like even that whole dream team?
Oh yeah, no, I love that part because I didn't know about that at all.
I did remember hearing about that. I remember reading a while back that I didn't know like how deep it went, but I do remember hearing like there was a convo with Scotty and Mike, and they were like, "Yo, we're about to show him where he's going." Yeah. Like they were like, "We're about to get him." I do remember hearing about
like,
that.
No one else guard him. He's for me. He's for me and Scotty only.
Yeah. But I like that though because I mean he turned out to be so valuable for that roster. Like once he came over and signed, with Chicago, he was so
no, for sure. They thought he was soft, but people do forget that. Like them boys gone through war-torn countries and stuff. Like them boys,
like basketball's small to him, man.
Right? Yeah, like they're
like, oh, you blowed me in the face. Oh, okay, there's a landmine over there. I'm not afraid of you. Like,
right? Exactly. Because they killed him that first game, but that second game.
Oh yeah, and he held his own in the championship. He definitely did.
That first one, Tony's like, I didn't expect him to guard me like so close. I just haven't seen that.
And the funny thing is that kind of even shows you. I mean, it kind of goes without saying, but that also shows you like when you're one of those international guys that like really makes that NBA cut, just how leaps and bounds you are over your teammates. Like the fact that like Tony looks at this and he's like, I had no idea they were going to do this to me. First thing I thought is I'm like, he's never seen this before. So you're playing, you know what I'm saying? You're playing guys, you're playing guys back home and they're probably soft. Like, so of course, I mean, you're naturally talented, but at the same time, you're not seeing that kind of competition. So, I mean, deer in headlights in that first game.
Yeah. Right. And Tony, he didn't know about the management issues and stuff going on either.
Right. I mean, he is just thrown to like, I think there's a part where it's like he just goes out thinking like, oh, it's going to, he knows Jerry, he knows MJ, he knows Scotty. Oh, this is going to be cool. I know all these names. It's going to be fine. It's like, no.
Tony was like he was the first like legit unicorn. Like everybody talks about like Kukoc is one of those guys that's constantly forgotten when you think of like the Mount Rushmore of international players. Like Kukoc to European players is a god, And for us, like we only saw him kind of like as like a really, really good, role player guy.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of international players, shout out to the brief Drazen cameo in the video.
I saw Drazen.
Bro, you saw that?
I knew you would get it. Yeah,
I saw Drazen.
And they called him out and everything. They called him out. Too bad it was on Jordan, passing him. But
I was about to say Jordan went and slashed right past him. But they
should have just snuck like a little bit of like
at least him doing something.
Giving Jordan 45 or whatever.
Exactly. At least him doing something.
Right. Yeah. What was that ESPN doc? It's really good about
Once Brothers.
Yeah, Once Brothers. Yeah, that's really good.
That is spectacular.
Once Brothers is easily one of my top 5.
That goes into Sabonis, right? As well.
I think so. Peja, right? Or
Vlade.
No, okay.
It's Vlade. Yeah.
Vlade,
it was Vlade and Drazen and
Vlade and Drazen. Yeah.
And Dino Radja.
I remember watching another one with Sabonis that also goes into Drazen, kind of like being overseas players coming over.
Yeah.
Nah, Kukoc, man, for sure though. Like 6'7", like he was that dude over there for sure.
And it's funny going into last night's episodes, they kept showing little glimpses of Tony, and my wife's been watching them with me, and I even said to her, like, you know, she's not too familiar with, you know, the 90s Bulls or whatever, but I'm sitting here and I was getting mad. She's like, what's wrong? I'm like, man, nobody's talking to Tony. I'm like, why are we not getting any Tony? And then that episode came on. I'm like, okay, we're cool.
That's the thing. It really could be 20 episodes long, like, for sure.
Easily.
The fact that there's only
Have y'all had a
almost feel
problem
like we're
with
getting
the Final
cheated.
Four?
I gotta yell at something.
Have y'all had a problem with the order? I've seen some people complaining about how it goes. It'll go back.
I actually like it better that way.
Yeah, I think people get kind of confused because it's like it kind of jumps forward to 98 and then it jumps back to 92.
Well,
Right.
So I feel like people that aren't
like the way that-
watching
I feel
stuff like that are confused.
I feel like the way that they're doing it, though, to me, it's perfect.
Yeah, it's fine with
because
me.
it's like the concept that they're covering relates directly to, you know what I mean?
Right.
I think they're doing a great job with it.
So
Yeah,
what I think is really interesting is you're right. In the moment, it seems like it's a little bit like breaking like the story, but after every episode, I kind of look back and I go, what was the theme of this episode? And sort of like going with this one, this is kind of like the whole idea of this one. It's slowly going into Jordan's kind of dark side. We've been shown his
Yeah.
side of
Trying to be like Mike.
and so they kind of
like
in going through like the 91, 92, 93 like they show like the Kukoc like thing. They show the Drexler like the comparison to him.
I said, don't compare me to
He
him.
murders him in like game one. And
Yeah, with Drexler.
and
He was
then-
offended, man.
And then there's the one with Barkley where he's like, oh, he can have MVP.
Yeah.
Well, I'm gonna take. Well, I'm about to get
The
like
Barkley
Yeah.
segment was awesome.
yes.
They
People
did
People
such a good
forget how
job with
good
the
Chuck
93
was,
final.
man.
Yes.
So it's kind
People
of
sleep
like
on Chuck.
you had to see kind of like the all of that happening, and also kind of like the whole media kind of back of the swirling of like the Jordan rules happening, leading up to him, like you know, in order to really get an understanding for who like for like his mind and like his character and all of that. So like I thought if they just came out and was just like, yeah, he was a gamer and like whatnot, like it wouldn't have hit as well as if they were actually kind of like giving you the context the whole time and letting you go, oh, there was that incident, oh, now we're here.
Yeah.
They're weaving it in really well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And going off that dark side stuff, I feel like the order they're going in, it goes without saying that, you know, next week is obviously going to touch on, you know, what happens to his dad. And
I was about to say, they have to touch
yeah.
on that, right?
We just finished the 93 finals, so I feel like it's a given now. It has to be coming up in the next one.
Yeah.
We're running out of time.
They had the part where Jordan is like, he doesn't like ask the questions. He's like, let my father take over, and he answers like that response. He gets the response, and like, you know, Michael's been like, you know, work his tail off for all of this, and like, you know, and I have the quote written down. I don't remember specifically, but it's like he ended up dealing with oh yeah, I think it was after that he went to he did like in like the finals, or like I think it was the series against the Knicks.
Talking about the Atlantic City trip.
He goes to
The Atlantic City deal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Which like, you know, like before this, I was watching like the Simmons and Russillo, and they're kind of talking like, so what? Like that's not really a big deal. Like, you know, and like media's like blowing this out. Like you went out on like it's almost like you went out on a work night, and it's like,
right.
Here's the guy that's been like best, you know, that he clearly doesn't. I don't know if it's been documented at this point that he doesn't need sleep.
Yeah, it's
Like
funny. It's funny because
it's like
it's funny to me. It's funny to me because it's like it's almost like one of those where you're in trouble, or like either way is funny because you have Jordan who goes out and people are like, oh, he shouldn't be going out, but then you have those other people that are like, but that's MJ though. And then like on the flip side, if it's like say me on the roster, nobody's gonna be like, what is he thinking? Like they'll be
Right.
they'll be like, man, Washington's not gonna play anyway. Whatever. Just like it's just so funny. Like on both ends of it, you can see like the good and the bad. But
well even Stern, I like when Stern was even talking about like, looking at his earnings, we weren't too concerned. Like,
yeah, and they showed
Mike could afford it.
Yeah, and they showed a clip of an article where Stern was quoted saying something like, now that this is over, let's focus on what MJ is doing on the court. Like that's what matters. Like something like that.
Damn.
It's funny because like in some ways it's like it seems like Stern's like, oh yeah, we don't want to. Yeah, he's making all of our money. So we're not concerned with what he's doing.
Right.
So, but
Aaron's like, look, I reserved the casino for them to go. So
nah, all them boys, they still be damn gambling. Mike, Chuck.
Yeah. You said he
That's how
wouldn't
Tiger got
come up here and play on the dollar table with us.
Right.
But one thing, like going back to the Chuck thing, like your heart breaks for Chuck, man, because how many people win MVP and lead the league in wins? They get to the finals and they get past Jordan.
And don't forget the high. Don't forget the high of coming off the Dream Team before that year too.
Yeah, and you know, like that whole thing with Chuck, and you get a sense of you kind of like Chuck to me, like he's kind of like you either like him or you don't. But to me, the thing with Chuck is you kind of got a sense of vulnerability. There's never been a sense of cockiness with Charles Barkley.
Right.
He
has a sense of awareness.
But like he's very self-aware. He's not like super self-absorbed. Like he can understand like, hey, it's Jordan. I got to tip my hat to him.
Yeah.
It's a matter. It's a matter of the Jadakiss lyric, man. He said, "I'm not cocky. I'm confident." Like Barkley knew who he was, but he also knew when to humble himself. Yeah. So I mean, and that gave me. I was already a Barkley guy. I like Barkley because he's not afraid to be outspoken. But hearing him talk like he did last night just gave me a whole different level of respect for him.
Right.
Well, he had like the best game of his career and still lost. Like.
Exactly.
You know, I think it's awesome. One that whole like fourth quarter where Paxson hits the game winner, but they say like Jordan scored every point up until then. Man. But then I loved Barkley's comments. That's just like, hey, if you're gonna lose to anyone, like you lose to that guy.
Absolutely.
And that was one thing on like the Russillo and Simmons podcast. They were talking like, what NBA players talk about like that again about like their peers and their colleagues, and you know, kind of like bringing it back full circle, like you know, kind of with the whole like you know Kobe thing. Like you know, I thought it's incredible, just the outpour of support that all these guys are like. You know, losing to him for years and years and all of that. It's just like, you know, the outpour of support. There's not one guy that's just like, man, that he like it's just ubiquitous support from everyone. And it's just like, so it's one of those also like comparisons, Kobe to MJ, how everything you're getting from Kobe like came from MJ because the whole league respected MJ first.
Respect. I think respect hits different when you know he strikes the fear of God in your team.
Right.
Level of respect when a player can do that. When he walks in the gym, everybody just stops and goes, "Ah."
Right. That intimidation factor for sure. Yeah.
Just looking at like, and just kind of going back to one of the, you know, the injury episode. It's funny thinking about how similar things have been for MJ and Kobe. Because you think about like the foot injury with MJ, and then you turn around and early on with Kobe when he breaks his wrist. Mm-hmm. Like it's like the similarities are starting to get like really creepy. Like it's like even the unintentional similarities are like a little strange.
Well, I like how they brought up the Isaiah part too. That mystery, how he got left off the team.
Yeah. I'm glad they did that
because I always thought that was Mike, but
Yeah, I did
I'm
too.
saying it wasn't just him, but
So like, you know, and I wrote this down. Like, I get that this whole thing is basically an MJ, like, you know, speaking like an MJ like marketing, kind of piece. But I
like Isaiah still to this day don't know why he was left off.
but see, the thing is, what made me like, it's not like the Bad Boys were just shitty to the Bulls. It's like, they were shitty to everyone. And so like when bringing up, was it Mike or the rest of the team, I'm kind of not shocked if the entire team was just like, no, we don't want to play with that guy.
Yeah.
He was a dick to all of us.
That Chuck Daly was the coach. So I'm sure Isaiah was like, "What?"
Right, exactly. No, for
That's
sure.
funny with that whole situation, especially like even going back to the whole like not shaking hands on the court and everything. I was listening to NBA radio in the car the other day, and Jeff Van Gundy made a really good point. He was like, no, I'm fully okay with what they did, and they were like, well, why would you? And he was like, because everybody's looking at it the wrong way. He was like, shaking hands isn't sportsmanship. He was like, sportsmanship is what we do for 48 minutes on the court. He's like, once it's over, like, I'm not being disrespectful if I don't shake your hand. I'm being respectful of you because on the court, I don't come out here and stab you. Like, I'm playing the game the way it should be played. That's how I show sportsmanship.
Yeah.
So he was like fully on the Pistons side. He was like, I have no problem with that.
Well, Jordan was going to take anything personally. So
yeah, me personally, my only issue with it was that they left before the buzzer. I'm like, I don't care if you leave and don't shake my hand, but you're at least going to stay out here until the game is over. Like, when that buzzer sounds, do what you want to do, but don't walk out early.
Yeah. Well, anyway, we got about 3 minutes here to wrap up. So, do y'all have any final thoughts or on this, or what you're looking forward to next week?
Like,
I'm really interested to see what, like, how deep they go into the whole baseball stuff. Like, I want to see just how much of that they decide to cover and how deep they go with it.
Yeah, and I also want to see if the field goal percentage goes down once we get to the Wizards.
Well, if they include hits, it definitely will.
Yeah, I'm curious to end it. Like, do you end it with the Wizards? I'm just curious how they're gonna wrap this up. Not just.
I hope they don't. I hope they don't
go into it.
Probably gonna end on the shot.
Yeah,
definitely.
It might be like a small like snippet of the Wizards. Like you might see Doug Collins on the sideline, and then they go to something else.
Yeah,
like the way I really do think like the way it ended. Like, imagine if MJ's career had ended just on the shot. Imagine if that's his last his last image.
Yeah. No, I don't think you can end it on the Wizards, right? Him throwing up bricks in Washington. I don't know.
Him over there making Jerry Stackhouse mad at him.
Right.
Yeah.
People,
comments. Those are interesting.
Trying to talk sense into Kwame Brown.
Right. I was kidding. There's a guy that on the VSU team that I was a team manager. He was from the Brunswick area, and he always had this comment that was just like, yeah, like Brunswick is always known for like ignorance and Kwame Brown or so.
I worked in Valdosta. I worked in Valdosta with a guy that went to Brunswick High. So they used to have to play Kwame like 2 or 3 times a year. And I asked him, I was like, so what was he like? And they were like, man, Kwame was a scrub.
Really?
They were like, the only reason he got love is because he was like the only good dude on the team. They were like, but every time they played us, we dragged them. They were like, Kwame would show out and we would drag them. So Kwame got love by default.
That was one of the worst pickups.
He better.
Well, anyway, we got less than a minute to wrap this up. So I'd love to talk more, but we've got this time constraint. So, do you have anyone have any less like sign-offs?
No, man. Looking forward to next Sunday for sure.
Yeah, it's a shame that it's winding down. It feels like it's just like not long enough. Like I feel like
right. Yeah, that's true.
But James.
I'm gonna just say thanks for having me. I love you guys, and hey, Mamba forever.